Hey guys, Desolator Magic here, and as a lot of people have wanted to know, yes, I do play Dungeons & Dragons. I've been playing for, really about as long as I've been playing Magic. Actually, my friend George was the one who got me into Magic and D&D at the same time. Now, I will say, though, it wasn't just, oh, hey, D&D, that's neat, I'll learn that. Like, before that whole thing, years before I had played Neverwinter Nights Platinum Edition, I've played Baldur's Gate, I played DDO, which is a slap in the face to 3.5, but still. But at the time, I had never actually played like pen and paper tabletop with real dice D&D, but I did know most of the mechanics and rules. So I got way into it, and I've been playing with the same group ever since, but we have, gained and lost people, of course. But lately, we were down to 3 people, and that's after an extended medical issues with, honestly, all 3 of us. Oh, we're the healthiest group of D&D players ever. But finally, we got back together, and then we got 2 new members to our D&D group, all of which are totally awesome. One of them commonly plays at the old LGS from hell, but I won't hold that against him. I mean, technically so did I. I actually played Gamma World there with a group, and that's one of the few times we actually had fun, because we were in a separate room, away from the staff and all the other assholes. So I pretty quickly went from, yeah, let's see if that's fun, to, hey, I'm gonna paint my own miniatures. It'll suck you in, guys. Them dice are like crack. So the question a lot of people always ask is my group / party, however you want to call it, are we like serious role-playing? Yes, let's get into it, dress up, voice acting, don't break character? Is that our jam? Or are we the what do they call it? Beer and pretzels or something? Or there's some term that everybody uses. I know the term murder hobos is thrown around, but that's more specific, but also, yes, that does describe us. It's where you just get a bunch of video game people together, then they play D&D, and they basically are just running around killing everything because it's there, damn it. Oh, but this doesn't make sense for your character. What about the motivation? And wouldn't it be better to talk it out? XP! Kill it all! Loot! Like coming from our lawful good paladin. So we're a little murder hobo-ish, I will say that. We have some tendencies, but, so we're not quite like super just kill everything, ha ha ha, like unserious. Like we do take the storyline and the characters somewhat seriously, except that we super don't because we see how badly we can derail what's going on. Not just like to be a dick, but just to try to like out-entertain each other with the stupidity of what we can do. Like even playing Gamma World, which you guys know you can't take Gamma World seriously. It's not possible. I was playing a regenerating zombie, and when we came up against the force field, and they're like, well, how do you open it? Why don't you examine it? And they asked me point blank, why don't you examine it? I'm like, I'm going to lick it. When licking it had no effect, I full force punched it and took like 40 damage. If you're not familiar with Gamma World, I think it came out like 06 or something, so it was a while ago. It's like post-apocalyptic D&D, but super like Fallout New Vegas levels of tongue-in-cheek not seriousness, but like even sillier. So it's like funny sci-fi post-apocalyptic anything can happen. And somewhat soon, I know I've been saying this for about a year, I'm going to finalize the editing of my like 25 page but pretty quick, like probably like 2-month Gamma World campaign. I designed it myself and it is awesome. I put a ridiculous amount of time into it and my party loved it. But anyway, we do carry that absolute silliness and complete lack of seriousness over to D&D, even though we usually play the official modules. Like, I think just at the last one, we were offered to join one guild, then another guild, then another guild, or an association or whatever. And I was asking, like, if they have dental, how's the insurance packages? Can they hook a brother up with a boat? Because there's an ongoing joke about boats in my party. And anytime we end up on a ship, a boat, a canoe, it doesn't matter, a carriage, every single time I'm like, but can we sell it? Like he's like, and you tie up the boat. And I'm like, and we're coming back, right? This is a 40-foot ship, okay? Back where I come from, you get some money for that. And our DM's just like, it doesn't say anything about going anywhere and selling it. I'm like, yeah, but I'm going to double back and do it though. So after about 4 or 5 years of me never playing a rogue, but clearly being the rogue, I finally am. And my awesome backstory, because we do come up with these occasionally. It's optional. You don't have to like introduce yourself to the party and all that. But, if it comes up and you need reasoning for why you're doing a thing, You can have a basic background, you can have a history, you can roll it, you can come up with it, whatever. We're super loose about what you do. So we're kind of halfway between who cares, yay, blow stuff up, fun game, and like actual role playing and actually caring about our characters. And mine, you're gonna love this. He's basically like Indiana Jones, Lara Croft kind of thing going on. Who's that other guy? Nathan Drake from that game series I never played. So he's a rogue, and then his subclass is like thief. But that's such a misnomer because they even say in the description, you could just be like a dungeon specialist, like a dungeoneer. I'm thinking, yeah, that's me. Like, stop calling me thief. So every time they ask me, oh, what background did you go or what class or whatever, I'm like, rogue thief. But I don't steal stuff, okay? I steal stuff if it clearly has no owner and somebody left it in a dungeon. But like, I ain't going to break into people's houses, you know what I mean? But I am chaotic neutral because it's all about them profits. So my current character used to be a shopkeeper in like a kind of smallish town. And he was, he wouldn't like purposely buy stolen stuff, but he also wouldn't ask like that many questions. He wasn't like super Mr. Uptight law dude. And he kept seeing adventurers and stuff, stop by, especially from bigger towns. They'd stop in and be like, hey, would you like to buy this? It's, 1,000 gold. And he's like, oh my God, I could flip this for 2,000. Wow. And occasionally they'd ask, well, where'd you get it? And they think, oh, wow, I was just, fighting that army. I just picked it up off a corpse. They're like, oh, this cloak? Yeah, this 10,000 gold cloak. Oh yeah, vampire tried to kill me and I took it off him. Just super casual, like it's just another Tuesday for them. And he thought, well, okay, if this stuff's just around, I'm not Mr. Big fight everyone super champion, fighter, barbarian. I'm not going to go fight evil and then get the loot. It seems way smarter at my current physical prowess level and natural abilities to just sneak around in dungeons, check them out, check for traps, look for hidden locations, and, get some hidden jewelry, whatever, something somebody else might have left behind, not seen. Or, something behind a lock, something behind a trap, just sneak into the dungeons unseen, avoid confrontation, and then instead of having to buy it off them for 5 and sell it for 10, I get to get it for free. So he read up on all the books he could about how to be a rogue and, how to do traps and pick locks and, all that kind of stuff and how to be sneaky. He got some basic equipment and then he went out there and soon after he joined our party. I think that's a really cool background because I think some video games have tried to do that because how in a classic RPG, you always, go get stuff, you loot stuff, and then you bring it back and sell it to the NPC shopkeepers. I kept thinking, what if the shopkeepers just thought, why don't I cut out the middleman and go get this stuff myself? Especially in like Skyrim and Oblivion, you think, oh, you just clear out one dungeon, you come up with 10,000, gold or septums or whatever the hell worth of gear. Why didn't the shopkeeper just do that? And the answer is because I'm the Dragonborn, damn it, and I had to kill Draugr. But I actually did it one time. I was curious. I went 100% stealth and just looted an entire dungeon without killing anyone. I'm like, there you go. Anybody could do this. With sufficient skills, you sneak in, you take this stuff. It's just like if you're going to rob someplace with a bunch of guards, you don't try to kill all the guards, you sneak past them. That's way safer and easier. So there have been games where instead of you playing like the hero, you play the shopkeeper. And I've seen them, I think on like Steam and stuff, and I've seen them promoted on YouTube. I thought, oh my gosh, that could be my character, except he does both. Like he doesn't just sit in the shop and manage the shop because they just flipped it because they thought it would be funny and ironic and kind of a gimmicky game, which I think there's at least 2 like that I'm describing and I haven't played either of them for the record. But the idea stuck with me. So that's my current character and his background. And it's kind of neat because then they actually had a background in the book, in the player's guide or player's handbook or whatever of like merchant guild member or something like that. So I thought, hey, that fits. That's close enough. And, you can make it work. You can warp it. You can do whatever you want. And I think coming up with a basic backstory, nothing too complicated, is half the fun. I don't always do it. Like my ranger, I was just like, I don't know. He is good at archery and likes money. It was like the most basic, like, I don't need an explanation. I'm going to go out there and be the good guy. Like it made no sense and whatever. But to illustrate how terribly seriously we take these characters, I have a bit of a pattern of naming my characters the stupidest, funniest thing that I can possibly come up with. And I put a lot of thought into this. So my guy's a like feline humanoid called a tabaxi. That's the name of his race. They get like +2 dex, +1 charisma. So like natural thief. But then yeah, I mean a cat, cats are funny, internet memes, yay. I ain't no furry, okay? I ain't no deviant like that. But that I can't name a cat character anything terrifically serious. So he officially got named, and FYI, in the book, they do say, well, here are some sample names for tabaxis. And I'm like, well, first of all, tabaxi, I got to name him Tadashi, after the large Samoan rapper. Mostly because I kept forgetting it was pronounced tabaxi, and I kept calling him Tadaxi, which is basically already Tadashi. If you haven't checked out Tadashi, I mean, all I gotta say is, 6'2", 2 plus, go on, add it up. Hey, that's a big problem. Call it calculus. Math on subtract, but content like I had enough. Long hair, don't care, Samoan, plus I'm tatted up. But after much deliberation, I decided on a slightly different name. I named him Kitteh Thundercat. And that's Kitteh, and then Thundercat. And it's not pronounced kitty, it's Kitteh. Like, almost like K apostrophe Tay, like Kitteh. Do not pronounce it wrong, he will be deeply offended. If you call him kitty, that is downright racist. I think my friend's playing a Warforged Juggernaut 500-pound dude named, I don't know, Chonk or something stupid like that. But you may recall that I have a long history of naming my characters some stupid stuff. So, to end the video, I'm going to break down, according to my character sheets that I just dug up, the last couple names of my last couple characters. Okay, if you remember when they did, I think it was in DDO, they'd let people design custom levels. And there was a famous one where it's like Lord of the Rings, but backwards, and you decide to be the villain. And all the stupid generic cliche party members were like generic names that also rhymed. And there was Eric the Cleric. And so I played a fur, what is it, fur, it's fur something. I just kept calling him Furball. I literally forgot what the actual name is. Furborg, I think it is. But anyway, he was a Furball Cleric, and I named him, I might have to spell this, Aarik, and then D period for his middle name, and then Klahrek. And it's pronounced Eric D. Cleric. And I did name him that also specifically because my friend Eric, who's also in the party, refused to be the cleric. Before that, I played a wizard who really liked to blow things up, and his name was Sparky McMuffins. Before that, I played a ranger who was like kind of flamboyant, but more just like showy. He just, had high charisma, liked to stand out, liked to show off to people and tell people how great he was and, how skilled he was and all that. But mostly just like his fashion. He would always wear like gold trimmed stuff, bright white, that kind of stuff. And because he was more of like a showman, like a magician, or like some kind of stage presenter is how I'd describe him. Any ability that he could learn that used radiant ability, he used it. So I believe I had a radiant great bow, if I recall. And I ran just about the whole game with it. And he had a couple like radiant arrow abilities, I believe. So I named him, oh yes, Sonny Archer. SONNYARCHER. So a radiant, specialized white and golden yellow trim wearing outfit, glowing great bow, and I named him Sonny Archer, which even I thought was a little too on the head, but I couldn't come up with anything better. I did want to name him Rainbow Bright, but the party wouldn't let me. Now, before that, I played a fighter who, his gimmick, because, all my characters have to have a specialty or gimmick, I guess. They don't have to, but I did. Well, this was a Goliath. He used, not a pole weapon, but he had natural reach. I took like some kind of feed or some kind of background that gave me reach at like level 11 or 12 or something. But his specialty, even before he gained reach and was just like a huge threat on the battlefield and could hit anything, was knocking people prone. I decided, okay, I get the +2 to ground pound because we were playing 4th edition back then. We play 5th edition now. I think eventually I got him like a halberd or a spear or something. So then he had additional reach and we looked it up. Yes, it does stack. So he was a melee character, but he'd get up into it, in a hallway or something or in a big group of enemies, and he'd be able to hit stuff like 3 squares away because of his reach. So that was pretty cool. But with his unhealthy obsession with knocking people off their feet, I had to name him, oh yes, Umlaut was his first name, and knockin' prone with an umlaut over the O. That's spelled GNOCHENPRO with an umlaut HN, which is as German as I could make it sound, because he was half, Goliath, like stone blessed Goliath, and half German. I gotta say, umlaut knockin' prone is pretty much the one I'm the most proud of, but they do get worse from there. In Gamma World, in my campaign, I played a Swarm, because you randomly roll your 2 types. I got Swarm and then Felinoid. So they actually gave that exact example in the book where they said, well, it's supposed to be Swarm of Rats. That's the default. But if your secondary like background or whatever is like robot, then you'd be a swarm of robots. And so basically I was a bunch of smaller kittens that formed the form of a larger kitten, like a 6 foot tall felinoid humanoid. And so naturally I just named him Mittens. In the previous Gamma World campaign, where we ran one of the actual official ones, I was some kind of ghost something, I think ghost gravity controller or something. I think ectoplasmic was their term. I named him Floaty McFloatface. Hopefully you guys got that reference. Oh, and since it's post-apocalyptic, the game encourages you in the book to come up with your own forms of special weapons and armor. So they said, there are swords and katanas and stuff, but they said you could be wielding like a parking meter or a stop sign for a heavy weapon, or just some rebar with concrete on the end, or a sledgehammer, a big I-beam, whatever. Like, it was super Fallout 4. And so my light armor was a cutting board, because I thought, well, it stops knives. So he made a cutting board necklace, and he wore it as like a front plate, and it had Kmart on it, because everybody knows that like Kmart went out of business forever, and there's a whole bunch of abandoned Kmarts that look like super post-apocalyptic. Like, they're all empty with plants growing in them, and the parking lots all went to hell. And I believe he also wore a cooking pot on his head for armor, and some Mad Max like spiked football pads like around his shoulders. And oh yes, I did draw him. The Gamma World characters sheets leave a spot for you to draw, and I'm no artist, but I think it turned out pretty hilarious. Oh, and as we would pick up different like Gamma World tech or Omega tech or whatever they call it, I would revise my character to be wearing it. So back to the terrifically serious world of Dungeons & Dragons. My very first character, and I didn't want to get too silly with it because I wasn't too familiar with how the group would take it, but I did name him Lantane Lightbringer, or Light Blaster. I think it was Lightbringer. Because I thought, well, it's a flashy name. It's kind of a hero name, and I was playing a cleric, and I wanted to do a bunch of radiant damage because that's what I always did with my cleric in DDO. Turns out in 4.0, the radiant damage is non-existent, and it all sucks. In 3.5, you could wreck somebody's day, okay? You could basically just start dropping sunbursts on the undead and just blow them straight to hell. So he did not live up to his name, but it was a similar background to my ranger, where he liked to wear bright colors, and he was all about brightness and light. And the word Lantane, I just made it up. I was just like, that sounds like a fantasy name. Just pieced a bunch of syllables together. And I believe those are the only characters I've ever made. I might be missing one, though. So as far as the modules, custom or otherwise that we've run, I didn't really love the last one. It was that Storm Giant one where the giant guy goes missing. I didn't think it was that great. The story was convoluted, and just where you go and why was kind of dumb. I know our DM might have kind of skipped some things because we're not that story heavy, but the new one, we're getting way into the story because it's just better. It's more interesting. It's more wide open, less linear, less on rails. And that is Dragon Heist, I believe is the name of it. Or like Dragon Horde or something. It's supposed to be like level 1 through 7 you get through, so it's a very low level one, which I don't normally like. I think starting at level 1 is stupid. Even in my Gamma World campaign, we started at level 2 to represent why the city chose us to go on the mission. And because going into any battle with like 9 hit points is idiotic. If I just made the character, picked out all the stats, got all the abilities, and then they die in the first battle, that is some dumb shit. That's when his twin brother shows up. But a lot of stuff is just like, oh, you get to the city, now what? Or you've got 3 days, how do you want to do this? We're like, well, go shopping, do this, meet this person. You can come up with stuff that the module had no idea that you were going to do. But it did solve the problem as long as your DM keeps it kind of on track. Yeah, I like that. I like creative solutions because, in any video game, no matter how wide open and open world they try to make it, there's still a set of very distinct ways to do everything. So if I come up with something super creative, there you go. Which is why my Gamma World campaign was structured the way it was. It all takes place in one city. And this Dragon Heist or Dragon Horde or whatever it is, I'm sure you'll find it. There's not that many D&D modules for 5th. It has quite a bit of that. It's like, well, do you want to fix this up? Do you want to not? Do you want to talk to the guilds? Do you not? Do you want to join this guild or do you not? Do you want to try to talk to this person or that person or, bribe this person or investigate that person or go here, go there? Do you want to, break into the warehouse from the roof or the back or this? Or do you want to sneak? Do you not? So it's not just, oh, here's how you entered this combat. You're in a forest, you get jumped. Yay, battle, woo. I don't have a problem with the formulaic stuff as long as it's not like more than 75% of the gameplay, really. But this module is just so well designed. I would strongly recommend people pick it up. It's really, really, really good. They got good details, like you can read the laws of the city and the different fines, and you can talk to people to get other people's background and know how to deal with them. There's a lot of multiple options, multiple path, multiple ways of going about stuff. It's just so cool. And it made my party, you know, we still don't take it terrifically seriously, but when we come up against a challenge, we get really creative and almost like purposely obscurely creative, like who can come up with the dumbest way to get this done. Like I think I said, what if we just like flood the entire basement with water? The DM was like, well, that would pretty much just end this entire thing that's really important. And he knew that there was, spoiler alert, like a guy down there that shouldn't die. So he was like, yeah, I'm sure that would work, but we're not going to do that. And I'm like, okay, I get the hint. But that kind of stuff was really fun. That's why I really liked it, because I designed my Gamma World campaign where when you get to the sewer, there's a part where you're in the sewers and you have to get across a pretty good gap of, we'll say, water. Definitely just rain runoff. And I have next to no way of actually getting across in the module. I literally just make the characters make up something by telling them what's in the room and just leave it. I do give some options for the DM, but he's not supposed to tell anybody. And my party came up with some of the dumbest stuff I've ever seen in my life. Like some are, like one was a cockroach, so she just like, I'll just crawl across the ceiling. Okay, well, there's one across. I think I ended up pole vaulting. Somebody else built a boat or something. Dude, that was arts and crafts day right there. And a lot of the skill checks and a lot of like the perception stuff have like astronomical, like 10% chance miracle shots that will give insight into like a ridiculous way to bypass or like shortcut or enhance a certain thing that you're doing. And not a lot of D&D modules actually have that. But this new one did. So it's like, this is like, if I were to take the style of my Gamma World campaign that I made and made it into a D&D module, that Dragon Horde Quest Treasure, whatever the hell, I should just look up what it's called, but I think we all know at this point, I'm not going to. That's pretty much what I would make, because we had like rolling 20s on like certain interaction checks, and the DM's just like, I'm just going to read this thing that's supposed to be like secret because you have, 28 insight. Or we roll like insane on like an arcane or a history or religion check. He's like, well, one of you just so happens to know the exact history of this exact building and the symbols and the this, that, the architecture, and so we were able to like go about things a different way. I don't want to spoil any of it for you. But yeah, a lot of that was like available in the book, and it was the DM's discretion as to how much they wanted to tell you based on what your roll or check was. And it didn't even just say, tell them to make a check, here's the range. You just kind of feel it out. Like, was it low, medium, or high, And the other cool thing in this, I know this might not appeal to everybody, but in our last encounter, some of the creatures were like 25 XP, and we blew them away pretty quick, but they still had some vicious individual abilities. They're kind of like the glass cannons. I think some were gazers or something like that, where they have like, maybe 20 some HP. They're like CR 1/2 or something. But, if you're not careful, they'll mess you up with some effects or some, big damage stuff. But like one fight, we're going up against like the toughest dang opponent ever. It's like some assassin or something. And then in another fight, we're going up against just some goblins we found because it said this is one of the encounters. And, one of them we had trouble. We almost died. And the other one, it was like, oh, total breeze. I don't like in Morrowind, where you're walking around, and if you're at a low level, you'll find low level monsters. Then you walk through the exact same forest at mid level and find mid level. And then you finally get super powerful. And oh, now there's high level stuff walking around. So basically, you haven't gotten anywhere. You haven't progressed at all. Once in a while, for realism and just because it's kind of funny and you can kind of dick around and do silly things and don't always have to take the combat that seriously, I like going up against something that we are comically overpowered for. If there's super tough fights, medium fights, and super easy fights, and everything in between, I like that. I don't like everything to be so appropriately leveled. And in this module, unlike anyone I've ever run before, that was the case. They wouldn't just expect you to have leveled and put you up against harder and harder stuff. And if it was the real world and this was really happening, it might be a level 1 goblin versus your level 6 party. So I appreciated like the realism, the story, the lore, the openness is just fantastic. I think anybody should run that module. If you're kind of new to D&D or you're going to form a group with like a DM who's maybe never DM'd before, or they do know what they're doing, but the rest of your party is new, run that module. Especially if you're into problem solving, creativity, and, doing wacky, interesting stuff. So that's my history with D&D, my silly characters, a little bit about my group. I know a lot of people constantly ask about that, so hopefully you guys were interested in this. Otherwise, you probably didn't make it this far into the video, but if you did, leave it a big ol' thumbs up. Thanks for watching. I should have my Gamma World thing finalized within hopefully a couple days, depends how busy I am. And I'll probably post it to Mega or something as a permanent link download as a PDF, and you guys can run it as well. And I will give like a spoiler-free version in case you want to run it blind. You as a participant or as a DM, and just take it as it goes and not know how it ends. And then I'll do like a spoiler section. So if you are the DM or you want to really assess, should I run this? Is it the kind of style for us? I'll run down just the summary of how every encounter goes and how the story goes. So it'll be like a 2-part video. So if you're interested in that, don't want to miss it, you might not get it in your feed because it's unrelated to Magic. So hit the notification bell and the subscribe button. That will virtually guarantee that you see it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next video.